A billionaire bets $1 million no one can calm his fierce dog, until his autistic daughter steps in. In a world where control seemed impossible, their unspoken bond breaks barriers, proving that love and understanding can heal even the most untamable hearts. Before you scroll away, my heart honestly sank when I saw that 98% of people watch my videos but don't subscribe. If this video made you feel even a little something, please consider subscribing. It might be just one click for you, but it means the world to me. The estate sprawled across the hills like something out of a dream or a movie set. Glass, stone, and steel carved into the earth with ruthless elegance. Helicopters touched down on manicured pads. Security wore earpieces and blank expressions. Cameras flashed at the perimeter. But at the center of it all, the sound that stopped everyone cold wasn't from the engines or the press. It was a growl, low, unrelenting. It came from a sleek black Belgian Malinois pacing behind reinforced glass, muscles coiled tight, ears pinned back, eyes sharp and wild, flicking toward every movement like they were threats. No one got close anymore, not after the last handler left on a stretcher. "His name's Titan," the billionaire announced, standing with a whiskey glass balanced in hand. Gideon Vale, tech mogul, investor, and self-proclaimed genius, smirked as his party watched from a safe distance. "He's trained in 5 languages, can run a mile in under 4 minutes, track you through snow, smoke, or concrete, worth nearly $400,000 on paper." Someone laughed nervously. Someone else whispered, "Then why's he locked up like that?" Gideon swirled the drink. "Because he snapped. About 3 months ago. No trauma, no reason. He just changed. No one can get near him now." A woman in a tailored suit raised an eyebrow. "And you're telling this to your guests because—" Gideon turned, eyes gleaming. "Because I'm offering a challenge. $1 million, cash, to anyone who can calm him for 10 straight minutes. That's it. Just 10 minutes in the pen with him. No gear, no treats, no tricks. You last that long, you walk out a millionaire." Someone scoffed. "What, you think this is entertainment?" "I think it's fascinating," Gideon said. "Watching humans pretend we understand loyalty, that we can control what we don't respect." The room went quiet. One by one, guests looked back at the animal behind the glass. Titan stared back, unblinking. Something in those eyes made even the bravest turn away. No one stepped forward. 3 towns over, in a much smaller world, Nora Green sat in the back of a dusty van that smelled faintly of crayons and hand sanitizer. Her mother, Ava, drove with the weary precision of someone used to navigating both roads and moods. Nora stared out the window, fingers tapping a rhythm only she knew against the frame. She was 11. She rarely spoke outside her home. Noise made her wince. Change made her retreat. The world had always felt too loud, too fast. But animals? They never asked for words. They never interrupted. They never lied. She wore a blue hoodie 2 sizes too big. Her headphones hung around her neck, silent. Inside her backpack was a notepad filled with sketches, foxes, dogs, horses, all seen only once and drawn with startling precision. They were on their way to a local farm when Ava's phone buzzed, her sister Leah breathless on the line. "Did you hear about the Vale thing?" "What thing?" "He's offering $1 million to anyone who can calm his monster dog. It's all over social." Ava sighed. "Not funny." "I'm serious. He's posted the footage. That dog's gone wild, Ava. Real handlers can't get near it. But you know who said she wanted to try?" A pause. The van slowed. Nora. At the gate, the guard stared at Ava like she'd just asked to borrow the moon. "She's a child." "She's not here for the money," Ava said quietly. "She just wants to try." "You think he'll allow it?" Before Ava could answer, A voice crackled over the intercom. "Let them in." Gideon stood waiting in the circular drive, sunglasses perched atop a crown of silvering hair. His eyes slid from Ava to Nora, lingering with visible doubt. "She doesn't talk?" he asked. "She understands more than you think. Does she know what she's walking into?" Ava placed a gentle hand on Nora's shoulder. The girl hadn't spoken since they arrived. She hadn't needed to. Her eyes were locked on the glass wall across the courtyard, on the pacing shadow inside. "She's not afraid," Ava said. "Neither was the last guy," Gideon muttered. Inside the pen, the air felt too still. Nora stepped through the gate, slowly, alone. Titan froze. He didn't charge, didn't growl, just stood, muscles wired, chest heaving, eyes locked on the small figure approaching. His tail didn't wag, his ears didn't twitch. Nora moved like a tide, without rush, without force. She didn't look directly at him. She didn't hold out a hand. Instead, she sat on the floor, hoodie sleeves pooled over her palms, and opened her sketchbook. She drew. Titan didn't move. The first line curved into the shape of an ear, then the slope of a neck. She didn't look up, didn't speak. She just kept drawing. Minutes passed. Titan lowered his head slightly, nostrils flaring. More lines. Eyes, muscles. Pause. Then it happened. Subtle, easy to miss. The dog exhaled. Not a growl, not a bark. Just breathe. His legs folded beneath him, one at a time. His body settled to the floor, not tense but alert. Watching. Gideon stood outside, mouth slightly open. "Start the timer," someone whispered. The timer ticked down from 10 minutes as silence held the courtyard like a spell. The guests, once buzzing with laughter and drink, now stood riveted behind the thick glass, watching a little girl sit beside one of the most dangerous dogs they'd ever seen. Nora didn't look at the crowd. She didn't need their permission. Titan hadn't moved in 2 minutes. Not a muscle twitched. He simply watched the girl's hands as they moved, charcoal pencil on paper, steady and slow. Gideon leaned in toward the intercom. "She's not even looking at him. What is she doing?" Ava stood beside him, holding her breath. "She's letting him see who she is," without speaking. "I don't follow." "She doesn't use words the way we do, but she feels everything. The more we push her to explain herself, the further she drifts. With animals, she doesn't have to explain." Inside the enclosure, Nora paused. She slid the sketchbook a few inches forward, open to the image of Titan's face. The angle, the tension in his shoulders, the raw alertness in his eyes, captured in exact detail. Titan didn't growl, didn't lunge. He crept forward, inch by careful inch. A ripple of gasps came from the crowd. He sniffed the paper, then her hand. Gideon stood up straighter. "I don't believe this." Nora remained still, eyes on her knees. And Titan sat. Gideon didn't say a word when the timer hit 0. He simply walked away from the glass. Later, in the quiet of a garden suite tucked behind the estate, Ava wrapped her arms around Nora. They sat side by side, neither speaking. A valet had brought them bottled water and a tray of fruit they hadn't touched. Nora picked at a grape stem, eyes distant. "I'm proud of you," Ava whispered. Nora's head tilted, not quite a nod. "I know it was scary, but you knew what to do." There was a long pause. Then, softly, almost as if asking permission, "He was sad." Ava blinked. "Titan?" Nora nodded, still looking down. "He's not angry. He's afraid. He misses someone." Ava didn't know what to say, but somewhere deep in her chest, something cracked open. Nora rarely spoke, but when she did, it mattered. The next morning, Gideon sent a car. Nora and Ava were invited back to the estate. "Why?" Ava asked, as the butler held the door open. Gideon stood by the balcony, gazing out over the hills. He won't eat unless she's near. You're serious? He destroyed his bowl when the trainer tried, then laid down by the door. She's the first calm he's known in months. Ava hesitated. Then maybe let her visit. Just that. I want more than that, Gideon said. Ava tensed. Gideon turned to her, something in his voice quieter than before. I want to know what she sees, in him, in all of this, because I built empires with code, machines, metrics, but that girl walked into a war zone of a mind and found peace. She's not a miracle, Ava said, firm. She's a person, a child, I know. She's not here to fix your broken dog or your broken past. Gideon's face flickered. But then he said, no. She's here to remind me of something I forgot existed. That afternoon, Nora returned to the enclosure. Only this time, Titan wasn't locked behind glass. The door was open. She didn't run, didn't freeze. She simply walked until she was 3 feet from him, and then sat down again, cross-legged. He trotted forward. No growl, no hesitation. He circled once, then lay down beside her, head resting on her shoe. Somewhere behind the glass, Gideon Vale, billionaire, hardened skeptic, let out a shaky breath. He'd been wrong. Whispers of the event spread far beyond the mansion. Someone had recorded a short clip from the glass. Titan approaching Nora's outstretched drawing. It went viral within hours. The dog whisperer girl. Autistic child calms elite guard dog. Billionaire humbled by child's compassion. And through it all, Nora stayed quiet. No interviews, no statements, just her sketchbook, and Titan. But the quiet didn't last. 3 nights later, the storm came. Not rain, not thunder. A break-in, a group of masked intruders, targeting the estate's rare art wing, breached the lower grounds. Security alarms shrieked. Lights snapped on. But by the time the guards mobilized, the thieves were already inside. They didn't expect Titan. He emerged like a ghost, silent, unrelenting. 2 men dropped before the third even raised a weapon. He could have killed. But he didn't. He pinned, held, protected. By the time police arrived, Titan stood between the last intruder and the gallery door, unmoving. Later, Gideon stood in the hallway, staring at the security footage. He didn't react, he whispered. He thought. Ava nodded. Because someone gave him his mind back. Gideon looked toward the stairs, where Nora was sitting, sketching quietly, Titan's head resting in her lap. She didn't win the bet, he said. She never cared about the money. No, Ava said, but she changed everything. The footage of Titan standing guard over the unconscious intruder hit the news by morning. Major outlets picked it up, splicing in earlier clips of the quiet girl and the snarling beast who now followed her like a shadow. They called it the redemption of Titan. But Ava knew the story was really about Nora. She sat beside her daughter at the kitchen table as the morning light filtered in. Nora was tracing something new. Titan's paw over her own hand, side by side. No words, no commentary, just a softness in the lines, like trust made visible. You know, Ava said gently, people are starting to ask questions. Reporters, doctors, even some foundations. Nora didn't look up, but her pencil stopped. They want to talk to you, to understand what happened, how you did it. Nora's voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't do anything. Ava blinked. Sweetheart, I just listened. Titan rested his head under the table, paw touching her foot. Ava realized then, it wasn't about training or dominance. Nora saw him the way she saw everything, as a feeling. Gideon had turned the estate into a sanctuary, not a publicity stunt. This time, it was personal. He converted one of the unused guest houses into a learning center for animal therapy and communication. And at the center of it all was Titan and Nora. She didn't give lectures. She just existed. And somehow being near her changed the dogs. Broken, discarded, anxious animals started calming within minutes. A pit bull mix that used to shake with fear now slept peacefully beside her chair. A retired racing greyhound, once skittish, now followed her like a sibling. Gideon watched, often from a distance. He stopped calling her the girl and started saying her name like it mattered. One day, as Nora sat on the grass with Titan pressed against her side, Gideon approached slowly and knelt beside her. "I think I owe you something," he said, voice quiet. She looked up. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the check, creased and folded but still valid. $1 million. The bet. It was real. Nora didn't reach for it. She blinked once, then said, "Can we build a place where dogs don't get hurt anymore?" Gideon's throat tightened. "You want to use it for that?" She nodded. "And for kids like me." The news spread fast. Autistic girl turns $1 million bet into animal rescue center. Titan's redemption sparks national movement, healing drawn in pencil and silence. And while Nora remained largely silent, her impact roared. Ava found herself in meetings with educators, veterinarians, and neurodivergent advocates. The world, for once, wanted to understand. Not to change Nora, but to see what she could teach them. Through it all, Titan remained by her side. He didn't bark, didn't chase, didn't guard like before. He simply watched, protected, waited. And one afternoon, as the sun dipped low and Nora sat beside a young boy who hadn't spoken in 3 years, something happened that sent a ripple through the courtyard. The boy reached out and placed his hand on Titan's fur. Then, in a voice fragile as glass, "Soft." The child's mother wept. Ava wept too, because it wasn't just dogs that Nora calmed, it was pain itself. But not everyone was pleased. An anonymous email arrived in Gideon's inbox 2 weeks later. "You're making a spectacle of that girl. Stop pretending this is a fairy tale. That dog is dangerous. One slip, and this whole thing becomes a lawsuit." Gideon didn't reply. He printed it, burned it in the fireplace. And the next day, he announced the groundbreaking of the Haven Project, a sanctuary for abused dogs and children with emotional or neurological challenges, co-designed by animal behaviorists and therapists. And in the center garden? A statue of a girl, sitting cross-legged with a German shepherd's head resting in her lap. They named it Stillness. But the pressure mounted. Crowds formed at the gates, cameras, journalists, opportunists. Even those who once doubted now wanted in, offering interviews, documentaries, brand partnerships. Ava shielded Nora as best she could, but the weight of the world had started pressing in. Then one night, Nora didn't eat, didn't draw, didn't speak. Titan paced the room. Restless, alert, Ava crouched beside her daughter. "Nora, tell me what's wrong." Nora stared at the window, then whispered, "I can't hear him anymore." Ava's blood ran cold. "Hear who?" She pointed toward Titan. "He's scared again." The next morning, Titan was gone, his kennel open. No paw prints, no trail, just silence. And a note, scribbled in sharp ink on the garden bench. "He belongs with soldiers, not children. Consider this a correction." Gideon read it twice, his face darkening. "They took him." Ava stared. Who would? People who don't believe in change, who think violence is the only truth. He turned to Nora, who stood barefoot on the grass, hair tangled, eyes full of something deeper than panic. "Resolve. We'll find him," Ava whispered, wrapping her arms around her daughter. But Nora didn't nod. She looked east, toward the trees. "I'll hear him." The news of Titan's disappearance spread quickly. Social media buzzed with speculation and concern, headlines flashing like firelight. $1 million dog missing. Sanctuary in crisis. Ava paced the halls of the estate, her heart pounding, while Nora sat quietly in the corner, eyes distant but alert. Gideon gathered a small team, including trusted friends, local trackers, and animal behavior experts. Their mission was clear: find Titan and bring him home safely. But the deeper the search went, the more complicated it became. Nora insisted on joining the search despite Ava's protests. The girl who spoke so little now had a fire in her eyes, a determination that no one dared question. "They took him," she said softly one morning, "but Titan's not lost. He's waiting." Ava watched as her daughter packed a small backpack with a water bottle, a notebook filled with sketches, and a worn photograph of Titan from the day they met. "You'll need more than that," Ava said. Nora looked up, steady and sure. "I have him." Their first stop was the nearby woods where Titan was last seen. Gideon's trackers moved cautiously, noting signs of disturbance: broken branches, paw prints pressed deep into the mud, and faint scuffs of black fur. Nora knelt beside one print, fingers tracing the shape. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I hear you." The others exchanged uncertain glances. Gideon, ever practical, called in a K9 unit for backup. But when the dogs barked and charged, Titan's absence was clear. No response, no familiar bark, only silence. Days passed, and Nora's connection with Titan seemed almost mystical. She began drawing pictures, patterns, symbols, and shapes that only she understood. To the adults, it was cryptic. To Nora, it was a language. One afternoon, under a sprawling oak, she held Gideon's hand and said, "He's near water." Ava and the trackers split up, scouring streams and ponds in the forest. Hours later, Gideon's radio crackled. "Found something. Tracks leading to an abandoned cabin near the river." The cabin was dilapidated, windows boarded, door hanging off its hinges. Inside, the air was thick with dust and neglect. But amid the decay, they found evidence. Titan's collar snagged on a nail, fur caught on a splintered board. Nora stepped inside, eyes scanning. Breath hitched when she spotted paw prints etched faintly on the dirt floor. She knelt, fingers hovering above them. "He's scared," she whispered, "but he's waiting for me to find him." Outside, the wind stirred, rustling leaves like whispers. Ava felt the weight of the moment. The thin thread connecting Nora and Titan was real and fragile. That night, the estate was quieter than usual. Ava watched Nora trace Titan's silhouette on the window pane with trembling fingers. "Why him?" Ava asked softly. Nora turned, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Because he listens without words." Gideon joined them, placing a firm hand on Nora's shoulder. "We're going to get him back. Together." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A local farmer spotted a large German shepherd near the outskirts of town, wandering near an old warehouse district. The dog looked wary, but not aggressive. Nora insisted they go immediately. Arriving at the warehouse, Nora stayed close to the shadows, speaking softly, barely audible. Titan emerged slowly, eyes locked on Nora's. A moment passed, suspended in time. Then Titan approached, tail low but wagging, a silent truce. Gideon and the team secured the area, carefully approaching. Titan didn't resist. Instead, he allowed Nora to step forward and press her hand against his warm fur. "I'm here," she murmured. Titan's eyes glistened, the fierce protector now softened by something deeper. They loaded Titan into the van, and the journey home began, the tension easing with every mile. Back at the estate, Celebrations were quiet but heartfelt. Ava watched as Nora rested her head against Titan's side, tears finally spilling over. "You did it," Ava said, voice cracking. Nora smiled faintly. He never left. Titan licked her cheek gently, a silent promise of loyalty. The experience changed everything. The Haven Project grew, supported by a wave of donations and volunteers, inspired by the story of the girl and the dog who defied odds. Nora's drawings became part of the therapy programs, teaching others how to communicate through silence, patience, and understanding. And Gideon, once a skeptic, now championed the cause as a father proud of his daughter's quiet strength. But in the quiet moments when the sun dipped low and shadows stretched long, Nora still heard Titan's silent call, a reminder that some bonds go beyond words, beyond reason, and that sometimes the fiercest love is spoken not in bark or cry, but in stillness. The estate's evening air was thick with a quiet peace that had been missing for weeks. Titan, once the restless guardian, now lay curled by the hearth, his deep breaths steady and calm. Ava sat beside him, brushing his sleek fur, feeling the steady rhythm that had once seemed impossible to reach. The ordeal had changed them all. Gideon, with his stoic exterior, softened. Nora, whose silent strength had become their family's beacon, and Titan, the fierce protector, now gently tethered to hope. But peace, as they all knew, was only the beginning. The media frenzy, which had erupted after Titan's disappearance and dramatic rescue, had subsided but left a lasting impression. The story of the billionaire who bet $1 million that no one could calm his fierce dog, only to be proven wrong by his autistic daughter, spread across headlines and social platforms worldwide. People were inspired not just by Titan's story, but by Nora's quiet courage and unspoken bond with the dog who had once terrified everyone. Donations poured in for the Haven Project, turning a private sanctuary into a sprawling refuge for troubled animals and the people who loved them. Yet amidst the success, challenges lingered. Gideon found himself grappling with the lessons Nora had taught him: patience, empathy, and humility. His business empire, built on control and precision, now needed to accommodate the unpredictable, tender nature of his daughter's world. "Nora's right," Ava said one evening, watching their daughter draw intricate patterns on a tablet, patterns that seemed to speak a language only she and Titan understood. "We've been trying to control Titan, control everything, but maybe it's time to listen." Gideon nodded, a rare softness in his gaze. "Sometimes the strongest control is knowing when to let go." Nora's therapy sessions at the sanctuary became a quiet revolution. Children with autism and other sensory challenges found a place where communication transcended words, through touch, presence, and silent understanding. One afternoon, a young boy named Lucas approached Nora, hesitant and withdrawn. Titan, sensing the boy's unease, moved slowly, lowering his head to meet Lucas's tentative hand. The boy smiled for the first time in weeks, a small but profound victory that echoed through the sanctuary's halls. As winter melted into spring, the sanctuary blossomed, both in its gardens and its spirit. Volunteers came from around the world, eager to learn about the silent language that connected Nora and Titan. Gideon spearheaded a new initiative, funding research into animal-assisted therapies tailored for neurodiverse individuals. He wanted the world to understand what his daughter and Titan had shown them, that sometimes healing happens in the spaces between words. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Ava found herself sitting beside Nora and Titan on the porch. The sky was painted with streaks of pink and gold, the kind of quiet beauty that felt like a blessing. Nora's fingers traced Titan's markings absent-mindedly as she whispered, "Thank you." For what? Ava asked. For listening. For believing. Gideon joined them, placing a firm hand on Ava's shoulder. We're lucky, he said simply. Ava smiled, eyes moist. No, we're blessed. Their family, imperfect, tested, and growing, had found a new rhythm. One that didn't rely on control or loud declarations, but on quiet presence and unwavering trust. But the story wasn't over. Late one night, Gideon awoke to the sound of scratching at his study door. Titan stood there, alert and restless, eyes fixed on something unseen. Nora followed quietly, her heart quickening. Together they stepped outside into the moonlight, where Titan led them toward a small thicket near the estate's edge. There, nestled among the bushes, was a trembling puppy, dirty, frightened but alive. Nora knelt beside the pup, her hands gentle and sure. You're safe now, she murmured. Gideon exchanged a glance with Ava, the cycle of rescue and healing beginning anew. The puppy, soon named Echo, became the newest member of their family and the sanctuary. Just like Titan, Echo had a story, one of survival, fear, and the longing for connection. And just like Titan, Echo found comfort in Nora's silent language. Months passed. The sanctuary flourished, its reputation growing as a place where miracles happened quietly, without fanfare or spectacle. The bond between Nora and Titan inspired countless others to look beyond surface behaviors and discover the healing power of empathy. One spring morning, as the first blossoms appeared, Nora sat beneath the oak tree, sketching a new design in her notebook. Titan lay nearby, his head resting on her feet. A steady guardian. Ava approached, holding 2 cups of tea. You've changed all of us, she said softly. Nora looked up, eyes bright. We change each other. Gideon smiled from the porch steps. And that's the greatest bet I ever lost. Epilogue. The story of the billionaire, the little girl, and the once uncontrollable dog became a legend, not for the $1,000,000 wager, but for the lesson it taught the world. Sometimes, the greatest strength lies not in domination or discipline, but in quiet understanding, trust, and love. Nora's silent world opened doors for others, showing that communication is more than words. It's presence, compassion, and the courage to listen. Titan, once a symbol of power and pride, became a symbol of hope and healing. And together, they proved that sometimes the impossible is simply waiting to be understood.